a flag flew in the wild wind, a red rose blooming full against a field of white. He prayed for strength. Surely where there was a flag flying there were people. There was warmth. He would have given half a kingdom to spend the last hour of his life by a fire's light and heat. But his vision began to go dark at the edges, and his head swam. Through the waves of fatigue and weakness he thought he saw the rose, red as blood, moving over that white sea toward him. Gritting his teeth, he urged his horse forward. If he couldn't have the fire, he wanted the sweet scent of the rose before he died. He lacked even the strength to curse fate as he slid once more into unconsciousness and tumbled from the saddle into the snow. The fall shot pain through him, pushed him back to the surface, where he clung as if under a thin veil of ice. Through it, he saw a face leaning close to his, lovely long-lidded eyes, green as the moss in the forests of his home, smooth skin of rose and cream, a soft, full mouth. He saw those pretty lips move, but couldn't hear the words she spoke through the buzzing in his head. The hood of her red cloak covered her hair, and he reached up to touch the cloth. "You're not a flower after all." "No, my lord, only a woman." "Well, it's better to die warmed by a kiss than a fire." He tugged on the hood, felt that soft, full mouth meet his, one sweet taste, before he passed out. Men, Deirdre thought as she eased back, were such odd creatures. To steal a kiss at such a time was surely beyond folly. Shaking her head, she got to her feet and took in hand the horn that hung from the sash at her waist. She blew the signal for help, then removed her cloak to spread over him. Sitting again, she cradled him as best she could in her arms and waited for stronger hands to carry the unexpected guest into the castle. The cold had saved his life, but the fever might snatch it back again. On his side of the battle were his youth and his strength, and, Deirdre thought, herself. She would do all in her power to heal him. Twice he'd regained consciousness during his transport to the bedchamber, and both times he'd struggled, weakly to be sure, but enough to start the blood flowing from his wound again once he was warm. In her brisk, somewhat ruthless way, she'd ordered 2 of her men to hold him down while she doused him with a sleeping draught. The cleaning and closing of the wound would be painful for him if he should wake again. Deirdre was a woman who brooked no nonsense, but she disliked seeing anyone in pain. She gathered her medicines and herbs, pushed up the sleeves of the rough tunic she wore. He lay naked on the bed, in the thin light of the pale gold sun that filtered through the narrow windows. She'd seen unclothed men before, just as she'd seen what a sword could do to flesh. "He's so handsome," Cordelia, the servant Deirdre had ordered to assist her, nearly sighed. "What he is dying." Deirdre's voice was sharp with command. "Put more pressure on that cloth. I'll not have him bleed to death under my roof." She selected her medicines, and moving to the bed, concentrated only on the wound in his side. It ranged from an inch under his armpit down to his hip in one long, vicious slice. Sweat dewed on her brow as she focused, putting her mind into his body to search for damage. Her cheeks paled as she worked, but her hands were steady and quick. So much blood, she thought, as her breath came thick and ragged. So much pain. How could he have lived with this? Even with the cold slowing the flow of blood, he should have been long dead. She paused once to rinse the blood from her hands in a bowl, to dry them, but when she picked up the needle, Cordelia blanched. "My lady." Absently, Deirdre glanced over. She'd nearly forgotten the girl was there. "You may go. You did well enough." Cordelia fled the room so quickly Deirdre might have smiled. The girl never moved so fast when there was work to be done. Deirdre turned back to her patient and began carefully, skillfully, to sew the wound closed. It would scar, she thought, but he had others. His was a warrior's body, tough and hard and bearing the marks of battle. What was it, she wondered, that made men so eager to fight, to kill? What was it that lived inside them that they could find pride in both? This one did, she was sure of it. It had taken strength and will and pride to keep him mounted and alive all the miles he'd traveled to her island. But how had he come, this dark warrior?